it's all covered in today's China Truths.
It didn't take an earthquake, just a faint crack in the wall, then another. And suddenly, towering new high-rises in the heart of China began to split open like rotten fruit. Concrete peeled, steel twisted, and families ran screaming into the streets. The truth was no longer hidden. Over 250,000 buildings across the country are falling apart, and millions of Chinese citizens are trapped inside homes built on deception. For years, China dazzled the world with a skyline that seemed to grow overnight. Beijing, Shanghai, Chengdu, entire cities transformed into glittering symbols of national pride. Skyscrapers soared, roads stretched for miles, entire apartment blocks rose in a matter of months. It was hailed as a miracle of modernization, but no one dared to look beneath the surface. What lay beneath was rot. Fueled by state-backed loans and obsessed with GDP growth, local governments and their pet construction firms raced to build fast, cheap, and big. But speed came at a deadly price. Developers slashed costs with abandon. Dirty sand passed for concrete, steel rods were cut thinner than safety codes allowed, and some pillars were literally filled with nothing but air and sand. Safety inspections were either faked or skipped. The result? Empty shells disguised as homes. Insiders had a name for it: tofu dreg construction. Buildings so weak they crumble like soggy tofu. And yet, these death traps were sold as luxury housing, paraded as proof of progress, and filled with hopeful families who poured their life savings into nothing but lies. This wasn't limited to small towns or poor provinces. Even in Beijing's Changping district, residents of a newly finished luxury tower woke to horrifying cracks running the full length of their building's columns. Engineers later revealed the unimaginable. Support beams were stuffed with sand, and critical joints had no steel reinforcement at all. The building was doomed from the start. Today, its owners live in tents across the street, clutching mortgage papers for a home they may never return to. On Chinese social media, videos leaked showing balconies crumbling, walls splitting in two, and high-rises swaying in mild breezes. Then, just as quickly, the videos disappeared, deleted by censors desperate to contain the panic. But fear is already viral. Across China, people are sleeping with shoes on, terrified that tonight might be the night their ceiling caves in. Others have stopped sleeping altogether. Parents whisper prayers while their children play beneath cracks that widen with every rain. This is no longer a construction scandal, it's a nationwide psychological collapse. The great urban dream China promised has fractured, and behind every shattered wall lies a bigger crack, one that runs straight through the system. A system built not for people, but for politics, profit, and performance bonuses. Now that system is breaking open for the world to see. In Xi'an, once the proud cradle of ancient Chinese civilization, terror now wears the face of modern architecture. A sleek 6-story apartment block, barely 2 years old, has begun to crack open like brittle clay. Deep fissures run vertically through the facade, walls tilt at disturbing angles, and faucets hiss weakly as water sputters from pressureless pipes. Parents tuck their children into living rooms, praying the ceiling above holds through the night while the building groans in the wind like a dying ship. In Chengdu, tragedy struck a place meant to protect, a local elementary school. During routine maintenance, roofing panels crashed down into the hallways. Thankfully, the school was empty, but what lay exposed shocked the nation. Corroded steel beams, rusted and hollow, meant to support children's lives. Videos showing bricks scattered across classroom floors and concrete gouged from weakened walls flooded social media, until censors pulled the plug. Furious parents, teachers, even pastors gathered at the gates, holding signs and demanding, "Who built a death trap for our children?" But this crisis has outgrown concrete and steel. In Shandong province, a developer vanished. No trace, no apology. Hundreds of homebuyers were left standing outside skeletal, half-finished towers, holding worthless contracts signed with hope. A July 2025 exposé revealed more than 60 similar cases across 4 provinces. Together, they left billions of yuan locked in frozen escrow and tens of thousands of dreams abandoned mid-construction. Buyers turned to the internet. forming alliances, live streaming protests on Douyin, only to be censored within hours. Local governments scrambled to contain the fallout. Police tape marked danger zones around crumbling towers. Signs were posted, but no one came to fix the buildings. In Ningbo, a top official promised full audits within 30 days. Residents are still waiting, and audit firms are in short supply. In Guangxi, peaceful demonstrations erupted into clashes with riot police as desperate buyers demanded refunds. Propaganda officers knocked on doors the next day, not to offer solutions, but to question their right to protest. The emotional toll is devastating. Families lie awake at night, too afraid to turn on air conditioning in case the ceiling gives way. On the outskirts of Shenzhen, abandoned mid-rises sit in eerie silence. Hollow apartments with dangling wires and dust-covered floors. Buyers call it a two-front war. Trapped between paying mortgages and retreating back to villages they thought they'd left behind forever. Hotlines are flooded with anxiety and insomnia cases as displaced homeowners spiral. Mortgage defaults are rising, with up to 30% of loans tied to structural defects. Banks are cornered, foreclose and inherit ruins, or delay and trigger a collapse. Meanwhile, state media stays cheerful, pushing river cruises and green dreams as families stand before cracked towers, losing faith in the system. One father from Chongqing wrote in a private WeChat group, "We came here for our son's future. Now the walls around us are ready to bury it." That despair is spreading fast. The nightmare once dismissed as rare has metastasized into a national emergency. The term tofu dreg construction, once whispered by insiders, is now written into the daily lives of millions. Even former Premier Wen Jiabao once used the phrase to condemn shoddy infrastructure. But today, it's not just bad luck, it's the standard. At the heart of the crisis is a fatal alignment of greed, pressure, and political incentives. Developers are drowning in debt, so they cut corners, using sand-filled pillars, foamed concrete, and untrained labor. Local officials, desperate to show growth, turn a blind eye in exchange for bonuses, promotions, and face-saving statistics. Oversight agencies? Often underfunded, or worse, embedded in the same bureaucracies that greenlight these disasters. When disaster strikes, blame bounces from one ghost company to the next, and no one is ever held accountable. This isn't just a construction crisis, it's a betrayal. It's the unraveling of a system built on illusion, where progress was sold at any cost, even if the price was entire communities living in fear, debt, and crumbling homes. The Chinese dream, once symbolized by owning a brand new apartment, is being shattered, brick by brick. And the cracks aren't just in the buildings, they're in the system itself. In 2024, a damning report by the China Construction Supervision Association shook the industry. Over 40% of building inspections in major cities were fake, rubber-stamped, or conducted by unlicensed personnel. Accountability? A myth. Responsibility is buried beneath a maze of subcontractors. A single tower might pass through 7 layers of contractors, each slicing away quality to protect profits. By the time concrete is poured, the chain of command is so diluted that no one's in charge, and no one's to blame. When disaster strikes, all fingers point in different directions, and justice dissolves into silence. The madness was fueled by speed, not safety. From 2000 to 2020, China underwent the fastest urban expansion in human history. Cities like Chengdu, Wuhan, and Zhuhai didn't grow, they exploded. Gleaming towers, sprawling malls, and entire districts rose in record time. Projects that should have taken 4 years were rushed in 18 months. And the cost of speed? Skipped inspections, untested materials, copy-pasted blueprints from decades past. To make matters worse, many of these towers were built on wetlands, former riverbeds, or farmland, unstable ground that shifted with each rainy season. In provinces like Guangxi and Hubei, entire blocks are now sinking or tilting. Residents watch their homes tilt slowly like ships in mud, and when these homes fall apart, the law offers no refuge. Chinese homeowners rarely win lawsuits against developers. Even if defects are proven, compensation is pitiful, and criminal charges? Almost unheard of. Courts are less interested in justice than in preserving stability. But the worst part isn't legal, it's human. Across China, families are being evicted from their dreams. Shiny new homes, bought with 30-year mortgages, turned out to be traps made of sand and lies. Walls crack within months, ceilings leak brown rainwater, balconies tilt, floors collapse without warning. What they bought was safety, what they got was fear. In the suburbs of Nanchang, a young couple, Louis and Chen Yan, poured their life savings into a 2-bedroom unit. 4 years in, a typhoon cracked the living room floor. The stairwell began to shift. An engineer declared the building unstable. Now, they live in a rented basement nearby, still paying mortgage interest on a home they cannot step foot in. They are not alone. A leaked document from China's Ministry of Housing shows that 15% of buildings constructed between 2012 to 2022 suffer major structural defects. That's millions of homes and tens of millions of people now living on top of time bombs. The economic impact is staggering. For most Chinese households, real estate is 70 to 80% of their total wealth. But when homes are declared unsafe, their value plummets to zero, yet the debt remains. Banks don't forgive loans. People are trapped in a nightmare. No house, no money, no way out. The psychological toll is no less brutal. Videos are surfacing of desperate homeowners staging sit-ins outside government buildings, holding signs that scream, "We want to live, not die in a new home." Trust is collapsing faster than concrete. The Chinese dream, once a promise of security through homeownership, has become a nationwide nightmare. People no longer trust developers. They no longer trust the banks. Many no longer trust the state itself. That distrust has turned deadly for the housing market. Buyers are vanishing. Prices are falling. And local governments are feeling the pressure. Crumbling walls, crumbling lives, crumbling trust. Generations who sacrificed everything to climb the ladder now watch that ladder collapse under their feet. And the silence from those in power, it only makes the cracks deeper.
Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We will keep reporting on the COVID surge in China, so don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to get the latest videos. And thank you for tuning in.